Experience the world through Montana PBS.
The programs you enjoy on Montana PBS are made possible through institutional support from both Montana State University Bozeman and the University of Montana Missoula. Montana PBS, one of the many services of Montana's university system.
And by the BZN International Film Festival, a 4-day event showcasing films that educate and inspire audiences to get involved and take action to protect our planet. For more information, visit bozemanfilmcelebration.com.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, the Montana Bankers Association, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Gallatin Gardeners Club, and the Rocky Mountain Certified Crop Advisor Program.
I've got hoppers in my wheat and my corn is not too sweet. Taters lying on the ground and my hay is turning brown. I planted and I watered, I've done everything I oughta. Montana Ag Live, where are you?
Good evening and welcome to Montana Ag Live, brought to you from the PBS studio at Montana State University in beautiful Bozeman, Montana. Well, we truly are experiencing the last days of summer. Fall starts on tomorrow, and we've all, I think, been out in our gardens working and have a lot of things to talk about tonight. We have an entomologist here, Bob Peterson, so bring us your questions about any creepy crawlies that are coming into your house or maybe some problems that you had in the field this year. Mary Burrows on the end is Extension Plant Pathologist and the director over the Scudder Diagnostic Lab. Bob Peterson, entomologist at MSU. Bruce Maxwell is a weed scientist and ecologist. And Cheryl Morgoff, who you've known for many years, has helped us out in the horticultural end of things. My name is Nina Zydak, and I work with Montana Seed Potato Certification. So tonight on phones, we have Bruce Lobel, Cheryl Bennett, and Nancy Blake. So please get those phones ringing and bring them your questions. So Bob, can you talk for a little bit about your program at MSU and also some things that you're doing on the larger entomology level?
I sure can. I've been at MSU for 17 years now. And I do work on environmental risk assessment, so look at risks from pesticides, biotechnology, invasive species, and I also do insect ecology research and crop insects as well as mosquitoes and all kinds of things, so kind of a jack of all trades, I guess. And this current year I've been president of the Entomological Society of America, and we've been dealing a lot this year with a lot of public concern and interest about insect declines and loss of insects and are insects going extinct and things like that. So I can talk about that when you want me to. And there's a lot to say about that and a lot of good take-home messages there as well. So,
well, let's just start it off right now. So are insects going extinct?
It's complicated. And so it gives us a great chance because there is this public concern. That's wonderful to begin with because people appreciate insects and they appreciate that if insects were to disappear from our environments, that we would be in big trouble. Two out of every 3 organisms on this planet is an insect species, and so that is a lot. The most species-rich organisms out there. 8 out of every 10 animals is an insect. And when I say 2 out of every 3 organisms, that's plants as well. And so if something were to happen to all the insects, we would notice it. We probably wouldn't be here as human beings. And so very, very important that we conserve insects and recognize how important they are. Only a very small proportion of insects cause us harm, both agriculture and human health and things like that. And so, but back to the question of what's happening to the insects, are they all going extinct? There's a lot of research that's been done lately that show some concerns about insect populations and insects. But a lot of the popular press and the articles that have been written about them have very sensational headlines. They're very sensationalistic in their approach. And so, no, insects are not going to all be gone in 30 or 50 years or 75 years, as some of the newspaper articles say. But at the same time, through our activities, through climate change, through land use changes, through invasive species, we are putting a lot of pressure on several insect species, and some are declining, but others are increasing, and some are staying the same. So it's a complicated message, and I've been out there kind of giving interviews to mass media this year because there's a lot of positive message there in terms of what we can do to help preserve and conserve insects, which we can talk about in a little bit, and things we can do to save the bees, so to speak, as a lot of people are talking about, as one group of insects that is really resonating with people. But it's not nearly as dire as some of the newspaper headlines and the social media communications about insects are proceeding. So.
Well, good. Thank you. So, Cheryl from Stevensville, how do I know when my apples are ripe?
Okay, so a lot of people like to wait until after the first frost to pick their apples because they think they're sweeter. And they may very well be sweeter, but if it's a hard frost, then you're going to end up with mushy apples and they're not going to keep. So the best way to tell if an apple is ripe is to cradle an apple in your hand after the base color has turned from a grassy green, and this is a tomato, but this is grassy green. You start to see a little bit of color on it, a bloom, if you will. But lift that apple up, take a weight off of it, and twist it, and it'll pop off of the spur. And if you have to yank on that apple, you might damage the spur, and then there won't be apples next year. So do that, see if it'll pop off, cut it open. The seeds should be either brown or black. So that's a good indicator that those apples are ready to be eaten. And finally, smell it, taste it. If it tastes good to you, go ahead and pick.
Exactly. Bruce from Manhattan. This person just found out that they have kochia on their property and they really don't know anything about kochia. Can you just talk a little bit about kochia biology and management?
Kochia is very much a disturbance species, so wherever there's been soil disturbance, plowed fields and such, that's where you find kochia. Kochia tends to go to seed fairly late, and it's a tumbleweed. So it's if you cut it off, it doesn't tumble anywhere, then you at least centralize those seedlings from it. That's to keep it from moving. But the big thing is if you've got a native plant stand, then it'll go away on its own if you wait a while. It also is a nitrophile. In other words, it likes nitrogen-rich places. So if previously you had a lot of horses or it was a corral, you're going to have kochia for a while. It likes those places. So any place you have disturbance, you have high nitrogen coming from manure or something like that, those are all good places to find it. But like I said, it doesn't compete well. So you get it in with perennial species and it'll disappear. Alfalfa is a really good one.
Okay. Well, and I hate to actually admit this, but I grew up in central Montana, an area with very, very alkaline soils, and my parents built a house on a clay hill, gumbo hill. And kochia is still the primary lawn species in our yard, and you mow it, and it actually doesn't do that bad, but it is really, really difficult to get grass reestablished once you do disturb those really heavy clay soils. So.
Well, and it's been thought, I mean, the odd thing is it can survive in very high pHs and very low. So it's one of the only things that'll live on mine spoils, like over around Butte. Strange that it would have that kind of amplitude and be able to survive under all those different kinds of conditions, but it does. But it doesn't produce hardly any seed when it's on those extreme conditions.
Right.
So yeah, you can mow it though, and it's.
It actually isn't.
And in fact, it was
that
introduced
bad.
as a forage species.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah. No, it's definitely ever present. Bob, just a real general question, and this is from Bozeman. Why are so many insects coming into their house right now?
Well, it's happening all over, and it happens every fall. And so a lot of insects will spend the winter in your home because that's what they want to do. It's much more cozy in your home than outside over the winter. And so there will be things like flies and box elder bugs and lady beetles and spiders and other things that will come into your home for the winter, to spend the winter. And they're, in almost every case, they're harmless, and they're not going to do anything in your home in terms of feeding, in your pantry or, doing anything like that. And so if the best thing you can do is just to take a cup in one hand and a piece of paper in another and put the critter in a cup and take it outside and let it out. If you don't want to do something like that, you can take a vacuum and vacuum them up. But really, they're just spending the winter in your home, and that's it. They're not going to do anything else. And so you notice that increase in numbers in the fall, and that's very, very normal.
Okay, thank you. Mary from Missoula, is it a good time to prune for fire blight?
It's a little early yet. We had a lot of fire blight this year with the moisture in late spring. You want to wait till those trees are dormant and then cut beyond the symptoms. And Cheryl, do you want to maybe clean your pruners between each cut?
Yeah, definitely. You want to be sure that you don't spread that infection within your tree or to another tree even.
Yeah.
By cleaning your pruners.
And I think we've got a Mont guide on fire blight.
We do have an apple disease Mont guide.
Yes, yes. I actually did a little work on that many, many years ago.
And it's being updated right now as we speak.
Okay.
So it should be out there hopefully in the next month or two.
Okay, great.
And when you say clean your pruners, is that bleach?
You can use bleach, but it's kind of hard on the blades. An alcohol, Lysol, something along those lines.
Okay.
So this is a question I'm just going to kind of throw out to the panel. This is from Helena. They have grass growing in a previously bare area, and they would like to encourage it. Should they fertilize it this fall? And if so, what type?
Fall is a great time to seed a new lawn.
Right, but they've got a little bit of grass coming, I think.
Your fertilization is better in the spring.
In the
probably.
spring, yeah.
Mostly because if they're just getting new grass there, there's not a lot of root uptake. It'll go right on by.
Right.
In a lot of sandier soils in particular, and there's a lot of sandy soil around Helena. But that would be my recommendation, is wait till the spring and get it and just before the plants start growing, and then it'll do the best good.
But if they wanted to overseed, fall is a great time
It's a great time, yeah.
overseed.
Yeah, to overseed, but not necessarily.
No.
I mean, it's a good time to fertilize your lawn, but not necessarily if it's just some new grass that's just starting. It's probably not using up enough fertilizer that it would really need it. So, okay, great. Bob from Bozeman. They have a bug infestation, 1/2 inch long, dark gray bugs with wings. It's a very thin bug. Do you know what it is or what it might be?
Well,
and what could be done?
This is back to my comment about 2 out of every 3 organisms is an insect. Incredibly diverse, and Montana has thousands of species of insects, probably 1,000 species of bees alone in Montana. And so the best thing for a question like that would be to encourage them to send in the specimen to Dr. Lori Krasinik at the Scudder Diagnostic Lab.
Or bring it to a local county
yeah,
office.
Take it to a local county extension office, and because that description doesn't necessarily lend itself to being able to identify the species, which is so important to then be able to tell the person what to do, if anything.
Right, and really in those situations it does come down to that specific bug and the biology of the bug, and that might tell you that you're going to have those coming in for a little bit in September, and then they'll be gone. So
yes,
not necessarily a whole lot to worry about. So Mary, this is a question from Haver, and I think it's really, really timely because hemp is kind of coming onto the scene as a new crop. And if you could talk a little bit about that, and then also if there are any diseases that we need to be looking out for on hemp.
I don't know a whole lot about the hemp industry. I know there's a lot more acres going in. We've gotten a few samples into the lab, and they have to provide their license and everything, and we can diagnose it. We've only found Fusarium root rot, which occurs on a pretty broad range of crops. I know in the Midwest they have seen some other disease issues such as botrytis, gray mold, and there's a number of nematode species that are pretty bad on hemp. So it'll remains to be seen what'll, there's not a lot of crops that we grow that are very similar to hemp, so I don't think it will encourage, any diseases of our normal crops in general. But as we get more acres of any crop, we tend to see disease issues crop up. So.
For sure. And could you just kind of talk in general about how to get Mont guides on different issues through Extension?
There's a website is the easiest way, and you can either get the PDF right away, or you can order the publication, and most of them are free. And I think they charge shipping. Or you can just print them off.
You can print it off online. Yeah.
And you can, I think, access them from mobile devices now too.
Okay, great. Well, a question came in from Lewistown that I'm going to field. They're asking about the forecast and that it's getting into the 20s. They haven't cut the foliage back on their potatoes yet. Should they dig potatoes now anyway? So I actually dug just a few potatoes myself this afternoon, and mine, the skin is actually starting to set, and really you do need to defoliate the potatoes in order for the skin to set, but at this point they may be maturing to the point where the skin is set. But they probably can go through at least one freeze in the 20s, and because right now we've got really, really warm soils, so they're probably just fine in the soil right now. But one thing that you can do is, dig some and see if the skin is actually set. If it's not, you know how when you cook your new potatoes in the summer, and as soon as you wash them, the skin actually kind of sloughs off a little bit. Well, that's what I'm talking about when saying, if the skin is set. If the skin is set, it'll stay on the potato, and then they store a little better. So you can probably get through this frost, and then if we've got a little bit of good weather coming up, leave them in the ground about another week or so, and then the skin should be in really good shape. So Cheryl from Lincoln, is straw good to use as a mulch in a raspberry patch?
Well, that depends on if you have rodents in your patch or not. If you have rodents, those animals will come into your raspberry patch, and thank you very much for providing them a nice place to sleep. So I don't think I would use it. And raspberries are pretty hardy here, so I don't think you really need to do any mulching in the winter.
Okay, great. A question for Bruce. It's actually directed to Mary, but we might be able to answer this amongst us. From Big Fork, they know that knapweed produces a chemical through allelopathy, stopping other plants from growing around them. Do you know what that chemical is?
Well, there's two of them. One is cyanin, and the other one is, I'm not remembering the name. Both of them, they were discovered at different times. It's not entirely sure how much they contribute to the success of knapweed, however. They certainly inhibit growth when we take that chemical and extract it from the knapweed and put it in a petri dish with the seeds from other species, and they don't germinate well and they don't grow well. So it could be an effect. It's very hard to separate out in the wild what's due to a chemical and what might be due to competition. So these are things that are very complex kinds of things to discover, and everybody, when these were first discovered, a lot of people said, there's a poison, that's why all these species are going away. Well, it turns out the knapweed is really competitive in a lot of western Montana in particular. Big Fork, a good example. And it just takes over because it's probably so competitive, not just because it has it's producing an allelochemical. So that's there's kind of two schools of thought there. A lot of people are believers or not believers, and so it's one of those things. It could be there and it could be having an effect, but it's really hard to separate from what the effect is. That's basically due to competition for nutrients.
Yep, just another one of those really interesting facts of nature.
Yep. Yeah.
So from Helena, Bob, what can be done to eliminate slugs in the garden?
Oh, slugs. Not insects, but very interesting. One thing you can do that works pretty well is you can take some awful beer, beer you don't want to drink, and you can take like a cat food can or a tin or something not too tall as far as a container, and you can fill it up with beer and put it scattered around in your garden, and the slugs will be very attracted to the beer over your plants, fall in and drown. And it seems to work fairly well. And it depends on, we're getting late in the season, but obviously earlier in the season it would work quite well. And so that's one thing that I do personally, and it works.
Is this the European garden slug?
European garden slug.
Yeah, that's becoming more common.
I don't know.
And it's not an invasive species on any list, but I know for a fact, at least at Flathead Lake, it's increasing.
It could be, yeah.
But except for the last 2 years where we've had cold winters, and it went through a big decline. So they're kind of hard to find, but they're around. But I was just curious about, when you talk about a slug, is there just one species here? There's probably more than that, isn't there?
I think there's more than one, but I don't know all the species or the European.
No. Yeah, and just one thing that I can comment too, if you have like a heavy mulch layer in your garden, you're going to encourage slugs.
Yeah, when I get my lettuce in the spring, it's all dense, and I've taken to just thinning it as it goes so I don't get slugs later on, and then reducing watering, especially this time of year.
And I found the beer trick works better if you actually submerge your container so the rim is flush with the soil surface.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because they can crawl up, but it's better if
It's better if they just
crawl right in.
make their way in, yes.
Yes.
Belly up to the bar.
Isn't that a waste of beer?
I said bad
beer.
Bad beer.
Use bad beer.
Right. Mary from Conrad. They had whiteheads on their main wheat tillers this year, and they saw an article about wheat blast. Could this be wheat blast?
Highly unlikely. Most likely it's either frost, insect damage, or one of the crown rots. And they can certainly send a sample in and we'll check. Wheat blast was found in Kentucky a few years ago, and it was actually a native strain from rye that infected wheat, and it was an individual head. So, and it's a big disease in South America. It's considered very unlikely to establish here in the United States, especially on wheat. It tends to be, rye is much more susceptible. And it certainly could blow up on storms, but I would think the southern U.S. is much higher humidity and the longer growing period, that it'd be much more likely to establish down there, if anything. Montana's fairly safe from wheat blast, so I won't worry about that one.
That's good. That's good. So Cheryl, a question from Shoto. They lost 90% of their tomatoes to blossom end rot this year, and the county agent told them that a calcium deficiency caused it. Is that true? And should they try a different variety next year? They've never had it before. And this is a great question because Cheryl actually brought in some tomatoes to show us today.
I actually took this phone call from the gentleman last week, and it made me think, since I was going to be on this evening, to bring this lovely show and tell. So if you're a new grower, you may not have ever had blossom end rot. Can we get a picture of this somehow? On the end of the tomato that is opposite the stem, you get this leathery brown patch. This is blossom end rot. It can be caused by a calcium deficiency, but it can also be caused by a few other conditions. Montana soils aren't calcium deficient, but calcium moves in water, so it's often attributed to inconsistent watering. But this is from my garden, and so is this, and so is this. So we have 3 different varieties of tomatoes side by side. No blossom end rot on these 2 varieties. This one was in the middle. It's a different variety, so it can be, there can be some varieties that are just more susceptible. And this poor gentleman did try a different variety this year. I'm going to suggest you go back to the one you did before.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is if you ever have like irregular watering and the soil dries out significantly, that can influence calcium uptake, and a lot of times you'll get them then. Like the only times I've tried to grow tomatoes in a greenhouse and had intense heat and things like that, I've ended up with blossom end
Yeah,
rot.
inconsistent watering. But interestingly enough, my sister has earth boxes which have constant water, and she gets blossom end rot on this same variety. So, lesson learned.
Very interesting. So Bruce, this kind of speaks to your ecology side. This is from Colstrip, Forsyth area, and the hills around Colstrip and Forsyth are absolutely, or they were absolutely covered with yellow clover earlier in the summer. They are turning brown now. Besides the fire danger, what might be the long-term effect of such a dense stand of sweet clover?
Yellow sweet clover does this. It's a biennial, and every few years we'll have a massive outbreak, and we did this year. Central Montana it was absolutely yellow, and
it was beautiful
to the degree that it almost looks like there's no grass there.
Yeah.
But in fact, those plants started last year, and they were only 3 or 4 inches tall and sitting there under that grass, and then they bolted this spring. They dry out, and the leaves though are very fragile, and they disintegrate really quickly. If it's a fire danger, it's only a very short time, I think. Some of in some places the stems will be woody enough to stick up. That's actually a good thing. It probably traps more snow for the next year, so you're probably a good thing to have around. It does. We get a nitrogen pulse from it. It's a nitrogen-fixing species. It's a legume, so we get a nice pulse, and it's probably one of the ways that we really service that grass stands in those natural places. It is a non-native species. It's been around for a long time, so it's one that and it's really interesting because it does show up only once in a while. And I've heard people say, well, it's every 7 years or something. I don't think that's true. I think it takes a certain set of conditions, but what's hard to think about is it took a certain set of conditions last year.
Right, exactly.
So, because that's when it really got started. So that's the interesting part.
So Bruce, do you know if the cattle can eat it or if it's palatable?
They can. I think they can bloat on it. They can have some problems with it, but it takes a lot.
Okay.
And in fact, they'll select grass usually over it, and there's usually plenty of grass in there with it. So.
And I know some years ranchers will actually hay a little bit of it, but you have to get it early enough so that it doesn't get too stemmy, because those stems really do get very, very wiry. So in order for it to be palatable, I think it has to be harvested pretty young.
And a lot of organic growers are actually using it as a nitrogen-fixing species in a rotation. But it gets so, in a cropland situation, it can get so large and woody that it becomes very difficult to plow it down.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting species.
And it's a great nectar and pollen source for wild bees too, as well, and other pollinators.
I would think
Right,
so,
yeah. So this should have been a good year for the pollinators, for sure. So Bob, this is a new thing, actually. We've got questions coming in from Facebook now, so I would like everybody to actually think about following Montana Ag Live on Facebook. And you can pose questions there, and hopefully over time we'll be able to get more information out to you that way. This is from Jessica H. Is there anything you can do in the fall to slow or prevent flea beetles from returning to your garden the following summer? Is there any soil prep or other deterrent that they can utilize?
Well, when you talk about flea beetles, you have to talk about the larvae, which feed below ground, and then the adults. So I'll talk about the adults, and then maybe Nina and Cheryl, you can talk about some of the soil amendments and things you can do. But for the adults, you have to have very, very large numbers of adults in the kind of the early spring, early summer here to significantly affect plants like arugula and basil and on and on and on with flea beetles.
Or by putting floating row covers on when the insects are active. So. Okay, so Mary, I see you have some show and tells. Would you like to, it looks like you've been working in your garden today.
I have. And good thing I'm on Montana Ag Live tonight. This is powdery mildew on squash, and also occurs on cucumbers. It's a white powdery dust on the leaves, and it can defoliate some varieties pretty bad. What you can do for that is stop overhead watering, which I don't do, and pick varieties that are more resistant. Like my patty pans don't have any on it, whereas my
Right.
zucchinis have quite a bit. So the other one that was intriguing Bruce a little bit was, these are my carrots, and they're not all my carrots. I have a wonderful garden.
They don't all look like
They
that.
don't all look like that, but this is a pathogen near and dear to my heart. It's called Aster yellows of carrots, and on the top leaves you can see that they are reddish and yellow and just smaller and bunchy. You can see especially this one is very, very bunchy. The other key to Aster yellows, this is called a witch's broom on the leaves there. The other key is that the root hairs are very, very dense, and so when you pull them out of the soil, it's really hard to get the dirt off of them. If you clean these up and try to eat them, they're super bitter. So if you've ever eaten those baby carrots even and run into some bitter ones, they had Aster yellows. And this is caused by cell wall-less bacteria that is unculturable, and it moves in on the leafhoppers every year. And so I'll have a healthy one right next to a couple with Aster yellows, and weren't many leafhoppers this year, but as I was casting them aside, I was like, oh, maybe I should bring these on TV tonight.
Very good. And I'll just make a comment too. You said that there are resistant varieties available of different squash. So when you're reading your seed catalog, they'll have initials that will be used to denote, or abbreviations to denote disease resistance. So like PM would be powdery mildew. For squash, another common one is cucumber mosaic. So that would be CMV. So if you've had these problems in your garden before, look for that. And I've actually made a huge difference in my cucumber crop by choosing powdery mildew resistant cucumbers, and then also angular leaf spot, which is a bacterial disease which can be problematic in home gardens. So anyway, pay attention to those seed catalogs and the information that you can get from them.
One time I had CMV get into my cucumbers, and being the pathologist, I just like watched it go down the row all year. Didn't get any cucumbers that year, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a potato question from Hamilton. This person bought certified seed, dark red Norlands, and this year she had a lot of scab, and so do I. She also has had it in the past. She puts leaves on the garden every fall. What can she do about scab? Well, one of the things may be the leaves. Anytime you add any organic matter to the soil, you actually encourage scab. And scab is one of those things that's very difficult to control if you do have a heavy infestation in your soil. One thing that you can do, you can actually, so scab is a bacteria that lives on the surface, and it doesn't actually invade the tuber, but it produces a toxin which produces those scabby lesions, and it likes to live on dry potatoes. So if you keep the soil evenly moist, you can discourage the scab bacteria, or you'll actually encourage the good bacteria, which will compete with the bad bacteria on this. Kind of a discouraging disease in home gardens, but really, you know, what I see in the farms is that water is the most important factor. So if you have like an end gun that's out on a center pivot, on the outside of the field, you'll actually have scab, and on the inside it'll be fine. So it definitely is heavily water related. So Cheryl from Missoula, this person noticed aphids on their kale. I also have aphids on kale, and it's an organic garden. Should he spray with water or use anything to remove them?
So there's got to be a specific species that goes to the Brassica family. Do you know?
Well, there's more than one.
Okay.
So there's a few, but you can kind of lump them in as aphids, especially on kale, in terms of management.
So for my garden, I had cabbage, and the aphids would congregate in this like pod, I would call it, a colony, and you could actually take your finger and get it out. I don't know how else to say it. I would say in an organic situation, water, a good blast of water is your first defense, and go from there. You want to take on any other control?
Well, I have a lot of kale. I think I grow 11 varieties this year.
Wow.
And I just grow different varieties because some are more resistant and some are more susceptible. And by the time they're coming on my big leafy ones, my Scotch is fine, you know.
Nice.
So just down the row.
Yeah.
And you can see if a blast of water, that's what I would do first. But if that doesn't do it, there's insecticidal soap. and thing, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't.
Right.
And there's always, like, as you mentioned, there is the human biological control. with
Yes, mechanical.
scooping out and all these things.
And just after you harvest, just wash it really good
Yeah.
too. I mean, that's kind
Yeah.
of what
Extra
I do.
protein.
And yeah, exactly, extra protein for sure. So Bruce from Big Fork, another knapweed question. They have a beautiful crop of knapweed. How can they control it?
Well, it's funny because beekeepers do think it's beautiful because it's one of the late bloomers and it does it supplies a lot of pollen for them. How do they control it this time of year? Well, there's a couple of different approaches. Certainly, keep mowing it until it doesn't flower. That's one way. That's the non-chemical solution. There are several chemical approaches to take, but it kind of depends on what you're really managing for. You really have to know, is this a pasture? Is this someplace you're going to feed horses? Is this a place where you're going to feed cows? Do you want to have other kinds of wild animals there? So, and all of those could demand really a different kind of approach or some mixed approach. I recommend talking to Jane Mangold.
That's what I was just thinking.
Because she
exactly.
has a lot of great ideas, but she'd want to know what exactly are you managing for, and then she could help you come up with an option.
For sure. Okay.
I can give you her number.
Okay. How about Jane Mangold's phone number?
It's 406-994-5513.
Great. Okay. Bob from Belgrade, and this kind of fits into your whole larger ecology thing. This caller has read that a decline in insects has also caused a decrease in the number of aerial insectivorous birds. Is this true? And could you discuss the relationship between the quantity of insects and birds which eat insects?
Right. That is true. There have been some just recently published studies that are pointing to a reduction in bird numbers across North America, and from, say, compared to 1970 versus today. And of course, there's not one reason for that, and there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when you talk about insect numbers too, and that is what is normal, because there's all these organisms are cycling, and we know so little about most species. But for the insectivorous birds, the birds that feed on insects, a reduction in insects that they feed on certainly would have knock-on effects, as we say, to birds that are feeding on them and their population numbers. And so the solution here is really to think about habitat and diverse habitats, conserving habitats, managing landscapes and ecosystems. And agriculture has to be an important part of that. But we need to think of it as much more than just agriculture and agroecosystems, and that's the total ecosystem in the landscape. And when we start thinking of that, then with insects that can respond so rapidly to improvements in a habitat, their numbers can come back very quickly just because of the nature of insects. And with that, those birds will follow as well. But it's complicated, and but really it does, a lot of what we can do is increase the plant diversity and all kinds of diversity within our habitats. And even homeowners can increase the diversity of plants around their homes that will encourage the good insects and the diversity in both numbers and kinds. And then that, of course, will increase other wildlife as well. So that was a great question.
Okay, wonderful.
So there is merit to mosquitoes, is what you're saying?
Well, I don't know about mosquitoes.
Everybody's still trying to figure that
the
one
good
out.
insects. The
Yeah.
good insects.
Maybe population control. I don't know. So this is a comment that came in from Malta, and I think it definitely is worth picking up. This person just wanted to mention that organic neem oil can definitely be beneficial for controlling both insects and diseases in home gardens.
Yes.
So that was a great comment. So, Mary, what do we need to worry about? This is from Scobie for grain crops with the late moisture.
In the past, when we've seen late moisture, we get something called low falling numbers. So this is, it's grain sprouting in the head causes this, and it's a quality issue. I haven't heard of any reports yet of low falling numbers, but it's always a concern when we get those rains near harvest. Also, from the disease perspective, we'll get some sooty mold, and that may discolor the grain, so guys might get docked for discolored grain. It's called black point. So that's just about it right now. So just looking forward to the new crop.
Yes, got a few sunshiny days for those people that haven't finished harvest yet.
Yeah,
so.
there's winter wheat going in already. So
Yes, and still being well, not winter wheat probably being harvested, but there's still spring grain being harvested too.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nail biter this fall. So, Cheryl from Billings, they removed a shrub rose last fall due to suckering, and it is still sending out shoots. And they've been using a weed killer, but not glyphosate, and it hasn't worked. What can they do?
Glyphosate.
Yeah, and another thing, if it does start coming up in the yard, just continuing digging and mowing and
So yeah, what you can do when you have those suckers come up, and the roots are very vigorous, and that's why a lot of them roses are grafted onto vigorous rootstocks. They'll just keep coming up. So if you give them a fresh cut and then use the glyphosate, it's been very effective for me with unwanted plants, even willows.
It's real common with perennials to put on too high a dose of glyphosate.
Good point.
And what that does is it kills the surface, and then it won't translocate so well. So when you talk about, you have a huge root system underneath there that's been growing for years probably. In order to move it through that root system, a lower dose will actually get out there and have an effect. So
Good.
that's a good point.
Thank you.
So Bruce, I think this is a great question that came in from Whitefish. They have a small plant with silvery green leaves and stem and yellow snapdragon type flowers. I would imagine at some point it gets a little taller. They really like it, but the neighbor says it's an invasive weed. What is it?
well, that's another one you need to send to the Scudder
Scudder
Lab
Lab,
for sure.
right.
It sure sounds like Dalmatian toadflax to me. It kind of depends on the width of the leaves. If they're roundish and fairly thick leaves, then that's probably Dalmatian toadflax. If they're skinnier leaves, also an invasive species is yellow toadflax. You have both of them up there. So one of those species is most likely.
Yeah, and definitely sending it in.
And it's a relatively late bloomer, and so it's you can still have some flowers around now. So.
And there's hybrids between the two, so that's another reason to send.
They're not very common.
No.
But, yeah.
So
another reason to send in the samples.
Send it in, and thank the caller for actually being cognizant of, even though they think it's a pretty color or a pretty flower, they need to know what it is. So
It's really pretty.
yes, it is. So Bob from Kalispell, they have an infestation of earwigs. Is there something they can use to get rid of them other than powder type insecticides?
Earwigs. I don't know anything that works really well with earwigs, and they're not that problematic. They look scary. They seem to be eating things that you might not want them to, but they generally have to be in very high numbers to cause problems. But as far as, I'm not sure about anything that you could specifically use to manage them, because the insecticidal soaps and things like that, that just won't work.
I've heard anecdotally that wet rolled newspaper, they'll get inside of that because it's dark and it's moist, and then you can pick them up and throw them away, anecdotally. I don't mind them myself. I actually had one as a pet when I was an undergraduate.
Oh my gosh.
For my entomology class, we had to keep an insect alive all semester. So
that's good. It was for a class. Otherwise, I'd worry. That's pretty bizarre, sure.
Yeah.
But no, they do like to go into dark, moist places. So there might be something to that. Of course, you have to keep on top of that if you're going to use wet newspapers and collect the earwigs and things. But that could. But yeah, your garden could tolerate a lot of earwigs.
They are a predator, right?
Yeah.
They can. Yeah, it depends on the species, but they will also.
So I mean, they would take aphids or something, perhaps.
Yeah.
So they might be serving a purpose.
True.
Yeah. So I just have a comment about this, and I've mentioned it before. I like to grow dinner plate dahlias, and earwigs get into the dahlias. And so you put this beautiful bouquet in the middle of your dining room table, and you're all proud of it, and all of a sudden, they just literally start spilling out of the dahlias. So the thought of having them as a pet is just
In a jar.
in a jar. There you go. That's just a little too foreign to me. But I mean, if you have them in your dahlias, you're going to have them as pets.
There you go.
So here's a question from Big Timber for Mary. Their apple leaves have brown spots on them. Is this a disease?
It could be. Again, we'd probably need a sample. There's a couple leaf blights that it could be, and usually they're not worth managing, but there are some management options for them. So if they want to send a picture or bring a sample to their county agent, we'll help them.
Okay. Great. Cheryl from Hamilton, they have horse manure and want to know if they can use it in the garden and around apple trees. Can you comment on using manures for?
In the fall, I wouldn't put it on fresh. You can compost it and put it on the garden during the season, but not fresh during the season. It can cause hairy roots on your carrots, it can cause splits, it can cause all kinds of other issues, and it can have seeds. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. It's usually a common vehicle for moving weeds into fields. And so where was that from? Sorry.
It was from Hamilton.
Oh, from Hamilton. Okay. Well, I was thinking that was probably the case. So yeah, you could transport a lot of bitterroot alfalfa, i.e. knapweed, into your garden.
And if you compost
you
it, and if you have good hot composting system, weed seeds will get killed. But if you just have a little tumbler, no, doesn't get hot enough.
Yeah.
Sure. So we've got another Facebook question. So this is from Lisa S. For Bruce, do you have any recommendations regarding salsify? They've been picking and digging hundreds of them in their 2 acres of grass fields this summer.
Salsify's been around for a long time. It is a non-native species. It's a biennial. It's another one that comes up one year and it looks just like a grass, and then the next year it bolts and produces this big dandelion-looking top on it. But it definitely disperses by seed. So keeping it from going to seed is the big thing. So when you have those nice yellow dandelion-looking flowers, and you always know salsify because it has milky juice in those leaves. So it's pretty easy to identify. Don't let those flowers turn into those nice parachutes.
Yes, for sure.
That's the effort.
Or hopefully your neighbors won't let theirs turn into nice little parachutes. So.
Right. Put up a snow fence
There you
so
go.
that they all dump in one place.
So Bob from Missoula, this person's been digging in their garden and noticed some white bugs in the soil. Bugs had brown legs and brown blocky-like heads, 1 inch long and curled up when disturbed. Do you have any idea what this is?
No, not based on that description. Another good point. I don't know if anybody else recognizes that from the description. But again, another emphasis to take the sample to county extension office.
Yeah, that's one they might have to rear to get the adult.
Yeah, maybe. And so.
And it could be a beneficial also, or it could just be something that's just living in the organic matter in the soil.
That's right. The vast majority of insects cause us no harm, or they're beneficial. So that's really important to identify.
Okay, thanks. So Mary, something that we were just talking about, I think kind of brings up the question of something that you've done a lot of research on in the past. So we've still got people harvesting and we've got people planting winter wheat. What are the implications for that and an important virus disease?
Right, so weed streak would be the primary green bridge disease. It loves wheat, so when you have especially hail and you get volunteer wheat, and then the mites will move over to the winter crop as it's getting planted. And then when we get those fall infections is when we get the most severe disease. We had an epidemic back in 2015, 2016, and drought really cured that. So the risk for next year is pretty low, except there's always spots that people take it as a grazing opportunity, and then it just keeps perpetuating itself. Our mite numbers have really rebounded in Havre. We've been monitoring white mites that land on these little volunteer, fake volunteer plants that we put out, but they're not at threatening levels or anything. Just clean up your fields as best you can before you plant a new crop, and hopefully your neighbor does the same. And
Right.
yeah, the risk here is pretty low this year, but I know Nebraska had a bunch of hail events and has a high risk this year.
Okay, thank you. So Cheryl from Lewis, this is a question from Lewistown. Can you explain how to plant grass and have it come up in 2 weeks? And is this a good time of year to be planting grass? If you could comment on that too.
Seeding grass in the fall is a great time. As far as having it come up in 2 weeks, with the weather the way that it is, I'm thinking you might not be seeing that, but there's a really great Mont guide available, Successful Lawns. It's on the MSU Extension webpage. So go ahead and take a look at that for some suggestions on good timing and when, how, what, why, and all of that.
Is it a good time to put down turf grass? Like
No, seeding.
Seeding's best. Okay.
Yep. Well, you could do anything you want, of course, but I would seed in the fall, sod in the spring.
Okay.
Well, you probably wouldn't be able to find sod right now, would you?
I
you might
can't
be able
imagine.
to transfer some yourself
Yes.
for a small
Yeah.
area and a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the sod farms are generally distributing in
down.
the spring.
Yep.
So, okay, Bruce from Billings, they have a very heavy stand of common rye in pasture, and this has been a problem for 10 years. How do you get rid of common rye?
Wow. In a pasture where you're managing assumably for other grasses, that's a tall order. I'm a bit surprised because I think it would be, if it was grazed very heavily, it wouldn't do well. So, you know, rye tends to is a winter annual, so it comes up in the fall. And if it's the same rye, people call several different species rye, but I assume it's probably the one that we see a lot in winter wheat as well. And so probably some fall grazing would help, but also getting on it early in the spring so it doesn't go to seed. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one very often. That's a new one.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, and it's always difficult when you're trying to control a grass in a grass, for sure.
Right. I mean, herbicides are very difficult to find that will do that. In fact, that's why it's such a serious problem in winter wheat, because you can't take it out, or it's very difficult to take out. There's a few products that probably would do it. I don't know what those are, but talk to your county extension agent, and they might have some suggestions.
Okay, very good. So we've just got a little less than 2 minutes to go here. Bob, is there some uncharted territory that you would like to go into just on insect ecology or anything that we maybe didn't get to cover tonight?
Well, I think just this whole idea of insects are declining or going extinct, and we talked about that a little bit. It's not as sensationalistic or as impending doom. It's called Insectageddon, some people call it, or the insect apocalypse. It's not quite like that, but I think everyone gets overwhelmed by what they can do. They seem like they can't do anything, but everyone can do something, and that is just to encourage diverse habitats. And even around the home, like I said, and that includes bee houses for bees, and maybe some open soil spots that ground nesting bees can use for their homes. But the main thing is habitat and a diversity of plants that insects can use for nectar, for pollen, and for food. And again, most of those insects are not going to bother us, not going to be a problem. And that's something everybody can do to encourage diverse populations.
Great, thank you very much, and been very interesting discussions tonight. So I'd just like to thank our sponsors again. And next week we will have the Vice President and Dean of the College of Agriculture and also Director of the Ag Experiment Station, Shrikala Bajwa. And she's going to be talking with us next week about the future of the MSU College of Agriculture. So please join in and learn what exciting things we have going on here.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, the Montana Bankers Association, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Gallatin Gardeners Club, and the Rocky Mountain Certified Crop Advisor Program.
Get your own Montana Ag Live mug or hat when you pledge your support. Watch your favorite Montana Ag Live show online or join our Facebook discussion when you visit the Montana Ag Live link at montanapbs.org.